Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines, where my guest is Ben Clapper. He is the Director for Louisiana Right to Life. He's going to talk to us about some, frankly, opposing legislation, some in the north, some in the south, Alabama particularly. But most importantly, he's going to talk to us about the Love Life Amendment, which is currently pending in the Louisiana legislature. Ask your legislature and Governor Edwards to vote for this. It protects babies and eliminates, hopefully, some abortions. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Ben Clapper.
One of the reasons I love this firm is that the moment you walk through the doors, you're so much more than business. You're family, which means we're going to fight for you as if you're family.
Most of the people we represent come from past clients who have referred friends, family members, other people they love to us to represent them in the same way we represented the persons who referred them.
We all pull from each other's experiences, knowledge of the law, so that we get you not only a solution to your problems, but the best solution that we can come up with for your problems.
Knowledge is power, and the folks who know what they're doing empower you. They enable you to make the right kind of decisions that best serves you. And that's our number one goal, frankly. Our number one ministry is to serve you. Hello, welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have back on the show Ben Clapper. He is the Louisiana head for the Louisiana Right to Life. Ben,
hey, Locke.
It's wonderful to have you back here.
Great to be back.
You know, there's been a lot of interesting news here lately that's kind of made me feel compelled to get back with you.
Yeah.
Educate the folks kind of particularly quickly what your duties are and what your organization does here in the state.
Absolutely. Louisiana Right to Life was founded in 1970 to defend the right to life, to restore the right to life from conception till natural death. So that's protecting unborn children, ensuring that they have rights, but that also at the end of the spectrum of life, ensuring that we protect elderly and handicapped and infirmed, assuring that the right to life from conception through the spectrum of life is protected.
Is respected and
That's
protected.
right, absolutely.
Yeah, I actually looked at it and I kind of summarized it like this. Y'all want to educate, legislate to the extent you can, and love people where they are.
That's right. We have pregnancy centers across the state that are serving women every day, helping them provide the physical and material needs that they need to give life to their child both before and after birth. So the pro-life movement's here across the state to serve and help bring it into abortion.
And of course, this is a national organization,
right.
and you guys have been doing an extraordinary job, and we'll get into a lot of the details, but the bottom line is the abortion, the number of abortions in the states and in Louisiana has gone down significantly.
That's right. Yeah, we've seen progress. You know, just since 2017, we saw 658 lives saved. That means 658 babies.
That's right.
That were living in 2018 that might not have been in 2017. That's a reason to celebrate. These babies are living and enjoying Louisiana just like you and I do.
And it's an amazing accomplishment. And boy, if you can do that every year, we're going to prevail. I know we are.
Yeah, we got to do it from the top down and the bottom up to bring it into abortion.
So educate folks again kind of quickly about the history of abortion. I mean, basically the watershed moment was 73 with Roe v. Wade. But educate folks on what the law was prior to Roe v. Wade.
Sure. So before, and every state had their own laws before January 22nd, 1973. We did see in the late 60s and early 70s just a few states modify their laws, but mainly it was around exceptions and medical issues. Rarely was it that a state would legalize abortion like Roe v. Wade did. January 22nd, 1973, abortion becomes legal in all 50 states and all 9 months of pregnancy, and for virtually any reason or no reason at all, thanks to the Supreme Court on January 22nd, 1973. Roe v. Wade fundamentally shattered the laws of each and every state, requiring even a state like Louisiana to allow abortion on demand all the way up until birth.
And remind me, what was the voting majority there? Was it a 5-4 decision by all men?
7-2 decision, all men, of course, in the court at that time, which means that if people want to say this is a women's rights issue, well, then let's go ahead and overturn Roe v. Wade and start all over again, right? I mean, it seems that's a good way to handle it.
I mean, I'm baffled by how our country's got to the point where at a minimum 5 out of 9 folks tell 330 million people what the law is.
That's right.
It's crazy what's happening.
That's right. Supreme Court's off its rails.
So let's talk about kind of historically how the abortion market took off and who the main players were.
Sure. Well, you know, in 1973, the Supreme Court certainly, I don't think, expected what would happen, was that abortion facilities quickly began to open
Became
right
a
after.
business,
That's
a
right.
money-making business.
That's the only thing that they did was sell abortions. And I think the Supreme Court felt that this would be somehow a woman and doctor decision, but now it's just like an industry. A woman comes in, she goes to have an abortion. If she's not pregnant, you get sent out the other door because you're not there to sell the product, which is abortion, buy the product, that is. And so we see that in Louisiana. There's currently 3 abortion facilities, and all they do is abortion, and 2 others in New Orleans that are trying to open right now.
And aren't we targeted as a state, and particularly New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, abortion. The abortion industry is going to target your populations that are lower socioeconomic class. Often African American minority populations are being targeted for more abortions. You know, in Louisiana, 60% of all abortions in the state are African American abortions. So you see that
6 out of 10
That's right.
are little black babies.
That's right. That's right. So you see a targeting there. So our Black Advocates for Life campaign is working in the black community to educate and hopefully support women to make that choice for life or to choose adoption, which is also important in this
Ben, I
effort.
think last time we were together, which apparently was 3 or 4 years ago, you had told me that I think 1 out of every 5 black babies is aborted.
That's
is that
right.
right? Is that still
That's
the
right.
stat?
That's correct, yeah.
It's horrific.
That's right.
All right, so let's talk about kind of the cultural place that we are. We've got some really extreme, I wouldn't say extreme as far as Alabama goes, but we've got some jurisprudence and legislating going on. Let's first talk about what's going on in New York and in Virginia, where the governor made an amazing statement.
Right.
And let's discuss it in the context of, well, how does that really apply to Roe v. Wade?
Well, you know, Roe v. Wade's core holding was that abortion was legal in all 9 months of pregnancy.
See, I don't think most folks understand that.
And even people who are pro-abortion will argue that fact with you. But it's clear, and even a state like New York, after Roe v. Wade, passed laws to modify that law.
Meaning make it harder, more difficult to get an abortion.
They made it harder to get an abortion.
New York made
Right.
it harder to get an abortion.
That's right.
And then lately they've
That's
done
right.
what?
So and now they have rescinded that law, allowing abortion up until the moment before birth. So people call it birthday abortions, right? I mean, it is ensuring at the last moment that a birthday can't happen and that baby is killed that moment before birth.
And that's, I'm sure some folks saw the governor up there clapping with
right.
the legislatures that they had just
That's right.
voted to allow a baby
And
to be
look, I
born
think
to
this
birth.
is going to be a day when our nation looks back and sees something like this and say, this is the moment it began to change. When
God, I
people
hope so.
woke up to the fact that what New York did is terrible, but even what New York did is not that morally different than what we're doing right now in Louisiana.
Well, and that's kind of the next question. The truth is, Roe v. Wade, because of how it was ultimately interpreted subsequently by the appellate courts and maybe some more Supreme Court decisions, was that, you know, as long as the health and welfare and well-being of the mom was at issue, up until birth, that abortion could take place.
That's right. And you know, the day of Roe v. Wade was handed down, there was another court case named Doe v. Bolton that expanded, that said the word health could be interpreted to mean physical health, psychological health, mental health, financial health. And so it became an exception as big as driving a truck through it.
Okay,
and
so-
abortion became legal for any reason.
So most folks don't understand, but this has been going on since '73.
Right.
The
And
murder of
since
babies
'73,
up until birth.
That's right. And we've seen now over 60 million abortions.
And that's just in America. Do
That's
you have
right.
any idea how many?
Some people even
hundreds
say
of millions. In
some
the
people
world?
even say it's 60 million that happen every year worldwide.
Okay.
And think about the heritage and the number of children. You know, we often say that in this generation, a third of our generation is lost to abortion. The seats in classrooms that might be filled would be filled. You know, we talk about Social Security having problems supporting itself long term. Well, why? Because we're aborting our future
Well,
right now.
and let's give another perspective here. You know, there's a birth rate that's required in a society and a culture for that society and country to maintain its
That's right.
identity.
Right.
America is now not at or right at that rate
Right.
where it might maintain the same population. But if it doesn't happen, if there's not changes, we're going to lose our culture.
Yeah.
And had we not aborted so many of our
That's
babies,
right.
that might not have ever happened.
Right. Why do we think Germany is now paying people to have babies? You know?
And China's letting them start to have another one,
That's
I think,
right.
from what I'm reading here lately.
That's right. So
Let's talk quickly about the governor, I think Northam was his
Right.
name in Virginia, and what he stated on the record.
That's right. Yeah, so he said that not only can we kill babies up until birth, but after birth, that, you know, you might as well let the baby die. It's a conversation between the mother and the doctor.
Yeah, I mean, I read the quote. It's basically pull it out, keep the baby breathing and comfortable, and let the
right.
mom decide whether or not you want to keep the baby. And if she says no, Kill it. All right, we'll continue this on the next segment.
Okay.
This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines, and my guest, Ben Clapper. We'll be right back.
One of the reasons I love this firm is that the moment you walk through the doors, you're so much more than business. You're family, which means we're going to fight for you as if you're family.
Most of the people we represent come from past clients who have referred friends, family members, other people they love to us to represent them in the same way we represented the persons who referred them.
We all pull from each other's experiences, knowledge, the law, so that we get you not only a solution to your problems, but the best solution that we can come up with for your problems.
Knowledge is power, and the folks who know what they're doing empower you. They enable you to make the right kind of decisions that best serves you. And that's our number one goal, frankly. Our number one ministry is to serve you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, I'm very pleased to have back on the show Ben Clapper. He is the director for the state of Louisiana for Louisiana Right to Life. Ben, again, I'm glad to have you back.
Absolutely, Locke.
And let's kind of dive back in where we were. We were talking about kind of the court or legislative attempts being taken in northern states. We talked about New York and Virginia, and they basically opening up the door wide. New York talking about abortion up until birth for whatever reason,
Right.
and Virginia even trying to pass one that says let the baby be born, we'll try and keep them comfortable and
Right.
let the mom decide.
Yeah, sure.
To the extreme, but I mean, frankly, I'm right there with them, is a House bill that was just passed in Alabama
Right.
2 days ago, I believe. Not even close, where they're saying we're challenging Roe v. Wade. That's the purpose of this bill.
Right.
Tell folks about it.
Sure. Well, Alabama and a number of other states are moving to proactively bring an end to abortion in their state and challenge the U.S. Supreme Court's holding in Roe v. Wade. You know, it's Alabama feels that, just like we feel in Louisiana, that we should be able to make that decision about protecting unborn children in our state. And unfortunately, the challenge now will be whether Alabama's law will go through the federal court process and will be able to stand. You know, we've seen President Trump add Supreme Court justices to the Supreme Court. You know, of course, we know, and you know certainly, that we never know how a judge is going to rule until a judge rules.
Thank you, Judge John Roberts, huh?
That's right. Judge Roberts, Judge Kavanaugh, you know, even Justice Gorsuch is new and has not been tested
We don't have
by
a whole
an
lot
abortion
of
case. That's right.
ways to interpret what they're going to
That's
do.
right.
And what we do have, at least based on statements, certainly Judge Kavanaugh made, is you think that they're going to support abortion to some extent.
You got to read the tea leaves and do your best to make that judgment call about when's the best time to challenge, because you know if you lose, you get further back up against the 8 ball. The stare decisis, the precedent value becomes...
They start to want to defer.
That's right. It becomes heavier.
Because what's going to happen is the court will vote.
Yeah.
And if it comes up again in a year, they're going to have the whole new debate. Maybe one person, that one person's going to want to defer to the whole court that was there the previous time. It's an interesting dilemma. It's taken us, 50 years to get to this point.
But it shows you the angst and the frustration that pro-life states have right now. They feel frustrated that they want to move, they want to protect unborn children, which is the principle of federalism. The states should be able to do that, but the U.S. Supreme Court is preventing them to do that.
So
yeah, I mean, it's now is the time when the Supreme Court probably is going to have to rule again and make that choice again.
So let's talk about kind of the science and the rationale of Roe v. Wade by the geniuses of our court back then, and kind of the new scientific data and information that we have about whether or not a little baby inside the mama's belly is a person.
That's right.
A human being.
You know, in the Roe v. Wade decision, the court said, look, we're not an expert in science, we're not an expert in philosophy. Basically, they said, we don't know when life begins.
But we're going to tell you.
That's right. It's like someone going out and go hunting, and even if they hear something rustling in the bushes, they shoot anyway, right? The Supreme Court should have ruled the opposite and said, we don't know, therefore we're not going to shoot, but they did.
And we got 50 states out there that can struggle with this, and then we'll see how it goes.
What a mess they made.
Yes.
But you know, now the difference between now and then in 1973 is people have their own ultrasounds, right? they have the window to the womb where they can see what they looked like, their value. That they at 18 days after conception, the heart was already beating. 40 days after conception, brain waves were already present. Before most women even know that they're pregnant, there's a heart that's beating and it's present. And so we know and we see that today.
And pain at 20 weeks,
That's right. So you think the court would realize, okay, well, science has answered the question for us, right? Remember, we don't believe life begins at conception. We know life begins at conception. It's a scientific fact. Ask any embryologist and tell you that fact. And the court needs to see that information, hear that information, and you certainly see pro-abortion advocates avoiding any scientific conversation these days, only going to a more philosophical assessment of that they have the right to do this, even if the unborn child is a person, which is a scary, scary thing for our nation.
Well, and we've talked about it before, but the bottom line is our United States Constitution provides for a right to life, liberty,
right,
and pursuit of happiness, and life is the first one.
That's right.
And so, I go, okay, a preemie is born, what, a month early, sometimes 2 months early, but they get to live, and frankly, our society spends hundreds of thousands of dollars preserving just a single life.
That's right.
And yet if that child had been aborted, no big deal, and it's not
another
considered a
number
person.
that no one knows about. It's also a woman drives to an abortion facility, she's hit by a drunk driver, a block from the abortion facility. If she and her unborn child dies, that's double homicide right there.
In some states.
Even though she's a block from the abortion facility.
Yes, and so then the absurd analysis, so, if a baby's head makes it out, or a hair or finger, are they considered a human being and a person, or does their whole body have to come out? Right. I mean, where are we as a society? This is absurd.
That's right. It's a double standard in our society right now, and it's a double standard that discriminates against the weakest and the smallest among us, and the result of that is these unborn human beings with a heartbeat, with brain waves, many of them that can feel pain and even hear outside the womb, their lives are lost because of it. And it's a sad reality of where we are. And certainly one day we're going to look back and realize that this was the American Holocaust and the pain and the suffering that our nation brought about.
Well, let's talk about Planned Parenthood and the videos that first got us together years ago.
Right.
And just kind of where we are in that whole world, because it's a pit of vipers.
Planned Parenthood is like the Walmart of abortion in America today, right? They're trying to maximize the effectiveness and the sale value of an abortion across our country. In New Orleans, they're trying to get a license to do abortion right now. And we saw what the reality was, is that when they not only were selling the abortion, but that they're turning around and selling the body parts
of these broken babies. Just exposed.
That's right.
Just so clearly.
That's right. And we're talking about how, unfortunately, Planned Parenthood has been able, through their teams of attorneys, to avoid prosecution on these matters.
And yet the media guys who were brave enough to go in there and catch them on the video, they're being persecuted.
That's right. Well, they're still being sued right now. They're in court cases across the country.
And this is with even commentary where the Planned Parenthood docs are knowing that body parts of these little babies are valuable, so let's don't crush this piece or that piece. Or the head just right here because, they want a whole brain or an undamaged kidney or what.
I mean, how twisted does your mind have to become to think not only it's okay to kill the baby, but in terms of the killing of the baby, they do it in such a way that you sell their organs for profit.
And let's talk about how much money they make.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Well, $500 million last time we talked.
That's right. And Planned Parenthood.
Tax money, right?
That's right. Yeah, $500 million tax money that they're receiving to fund their business. And we know all the money's fungible, so they're able to use it across the board, support what they're doing, pay their CEOs, their affiliates money. And we've seen recently the movie that came out, Unplanned, focused on the life of Abby Johnson, further has exposed that business model that
Tell the folks quickly about that movie.
Yeah, Unplanned.
Abby Johnson
was a former Planned Parenthood director in College Station, Texas. She left the abortion facility, had a conversion to life, and one of her great things that Abby's doing right now is offering a ministry to people who leave the abortion facility in Louisiana.
Because there's two victims,
that's right,
the baby and the mom.
And in Louisiana, we've seen people leave the abortion facilities, the workers leave the abortion facilities, and begin to expose what really happens there. But it's a great movie. It had just come out. It's going to be available on DVD.
And the pinnacle moment for her was she realized it was a baby. They've been lying to her, doesn't feel pain and this and that.
That's right.
And she saw it on an ultrasound, I believe.
Saw it on the ultrasound machine, saw how the abortionist said, beam me up, Scotty, and they removed the baby from
All right, we'll continue this on the next segment. This is Locke Meredith Legal Lines, Ben Clapper with Louisiana Right to Life. We'll be right back.
One of the reasons I love this firm is that the moment you walk through the doors, you're so much more than business. You're family, which means we're going to fight for you as if you're family.
Most of the people we represent come from past clients who have referred friends, family members, other people they love to us to represent them in the same way we represented the persons who referred them.
We all pull from each other's experiences, knowledge of the law, so that we get you not only a solution to your problems, but the best solution that we can come up with for your problems.
Knowledge is power, and the folks who know what they're doing empower you. They enable you to make the right kind of decisions that best serves you. And that's our number one goal, frankly. Our number one ministry is to serve you. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Have on my show again Ben Clapper. He is the director for Louisiana Right to Life. Let's dive back in.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about the collision between the courts, and there's really a collision in our culture. I was recently reading some articles about some kids in Texas and Missouri basically making fun and singing songs about dead fetuses in the ground, and that flag might be my aborted baby, and
Right.
I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
And it's at I think an annual event that playing the pro-life folks. Pro-life folks explaining flags out representing the lives
Sir,
of
we
the
do this
babies.
on LSU's campus and other campuses around the state where we put out flags, pink and blue flags, to represent the number of lives lost to abortion.
And I notice you have
every
pink
day.
little feet.
That's
on your
right, yeah.
lapel.
So every day, the number of abortions lost, and in Texas, what these pro-abortion students did is basically make fun of it. And instead of respecting this, they made fun of it. You know what they said, singing a song about how the fetuses were dead in the ground, which goes to show you that we've gone a long way from the 90s when President Clinton said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, right? When they wanted to make it look nice. Now the abortion industry, the abortion advocates, they have no problem. They want to be straight up. We see what New York's doing, the governor of Virginia, and now these students showing that it's trickled all the way down, that it's abortion or nothing for these people, and they're gonna persecute anyone who is going to go against what they do. And these, I think that we get lost maybe in what these pro-abortion students were doing, and we forget the courage of these pro-life students. Right. About how strong they were in their perspective, knowing that they were going into this and going to get persecuted in the process.
Ben, you've been doing this a long time. What are the arguments that these folks make? I mean, how do you get there? It's just, it's my right to decide because it's my body, period?
Right. That's what it's become. I mean, seriously, the scientific part has been lost, and so the argument is, well, it's still my right to do whatever I want with my body. And people forget that, well, what extent does that go to, right? I mean, we wouldn't let someone torture their unborn child just for the fact that they would want to do it, yet we can kill the unborn child because of that. We wouldn't allow people to hurt an infant that's born outside of the womb, but yet we allow people 2 days before birth to abort the child. The double standard is ridiculous, and we see that our culture is becoming, this battle between life and abortion is becoming, it's reaching a peak, hitting a crossroads in our society right now.
All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the success in Louisiana so far. We still don't want a single death, and there were about 8,000 abortions last year.
Right, too many. 8,000 too many, but we're seeing the numbers come down.
658 less than the previous year.
That's right. We want to save every baby, right?
Right.
Protect everyone as we can.
And over the last several years, I mean, it's a trend, right? We're going down every single year.
And remember, every time one of those lives is saved, that's a woman who's spared from the hurt of abortion. Abortion not only hurts babies, but it hurts women in a very particular way, and our pregnancy centers are offering help and support to any women who may be hurting from a past abortion. There's freedom out there for that.
So explain what services y'all provide for a lady who's struggling with whether or not to have an abortion. She's financially strapped. She's got a husband or a boyfriend that beats her up or leaves her all the time. Just, you know, she doesn't know how in the world she's going to have a baby and much less take care of it. What can you guys do for her?
We work with pregnancy centers around the state that are there. They exist to help the woman before and after birth. You know, I just left today in North Baton Rouge, the Women's Help Center, which even provides GED programs to young young women who leave high school because they're pregnant, and they help them after their baby's born get a GED so that they can get back into the workforce and make a life for themselves and their child.
So there really is another choice.
Absolutely.
It's
Well,
a choice for life, but it's also for your baby, and it's a choice for you.
That's right. And adoption is there, and for every 100 abortions in America, there's only 2 adoptions right now.
Holy
It's a
moly.
terrible.
Say that again?
100
Every 100 abortions you
There's
get
only
2?
2 adoptions that are placed of an infant adoption. So there's a great need for us to talk and promote adoption in our nation.
Yeah,
and
there's
it's not
people that
being done.
can't have babies, and they
That's right.
want them so bad.
That's right. And we should be able to agree to disagree on abortion, but commit together to working for adoption. But Planned Parenthood doesn't promote adoption. That'd be like McDonald's sending people to Burger King, right? It doesn't help their bottom line. Abortion now, abortion always. But the pro-life movement in Louisiana is dedicated to helping these mothers, to supporting them, to giving life to their baby. And we're also active in the legislative process. We're also active by giving talks and education in classrooms across the state.
Are y'all able to go into public schools?
Yeah,
and
we
discuss?
definitely, on the adoption issue, we do a lot in the public schools,
Okay.
and then some of the schools that invite us in to talk about abortion. So there's a law in the state that requires every secondary school in the state to talk about adoption. So that's something that we're working to capitalize on right now.
Well, talk about how you're organized here in the state and how folks can participate. The website's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah,
Makes it easy.
Louisiana Right to Life. Reach us online at prolifelouisiana.org, or just Google Louisiana Right to Life. But we invite people to come and get involved in what we're doing as an organization. You know, we have chapters around the state. Here in Baton Rouge, we have our Baton Rouge Right to Life chapter. You know, people are active, involved, and peacefully praying and witnessing outside of abortion facilities. You know, this is not some fringe movement. Remember, 7 out of 10 Louisianians are pro-life. Everyone that you meet, 7 out of them are pro-life.
I was saying 6, but that was an old statistic.
Yeah, 7 out of 10. So that's
Excellent.
the good news. But we invite people to get involved, and the legislative process is something that's happening right now.
And you can do that via the website.
That's right.
You got a petition or a
Right.
position paper letter that you can send out.
Come on, get on our website. It takes 2 minutes to send an email to your senator to support our legislation. One of our main priorities right now is we're working to pass the Love Life
So
constitutional
let's
amendment.
talk about it. This
Yeah.
it's an amendment. It's a proposed amendment to the Louisiana Constitution. It's called the Love Life Amendment.
That's right.
And it's been put forward by a Democrat.
That's right. State Representative Katrina Jackson from
Excellent.
Monroe is an African-American Democrat, strongly pro-life. In Louisiana, we cut across bipartisan
Sure.
and racial to stand for life, and that's what she's doing. So if we get through the Senate, which people contact your senators right now, ask them to support House Bill 425.
And they can go to your website,
to do
and
that.
you've got an easy
That's
way to
right.
help them do that.
That's right, and we have a website dedicated to the campaign, which is Love Life, Vote Yes, because on October 12th, it's going to hit the ballots across Louisiana. And so when you go to vote for governor or attorney general, you're going to have a constitutional amendment, and you want to vote yes for the Love Life amendment.
Okay, we got to
that will be
make
on
sure
the
that we
ballot.
maybe talk about this when we get a little closer to
good.
that.
That'd be
Make
great.
sure that we follow
Get as
up.
many pro-life people out to the polls. You know, in Alabama, we talked about Alabama. They did a similar amendment last year, and the pro-abortion group spent $1 million to stop the amendment. So it's going to take a lot of effort and
Well, in
energy.
Kansas, just the Supreme Court there,
That's right.
They basically said, we're interpreting our Constitution, and we're going to say you can't do this.
Well, they interpreted the Kansas Constitution to say that there is a right to abortion. So that means regardless of what the people of Kansas felt right now through
Those
their
people, those
legislative
gods
process-
up there in
That's right.
robes are telling
That's
them what
right. So
they
they
can do.
became the 13th state to do that. We want to prevent that from happening.
And
in
so
our
this
state.
amendment would be an amendment to our Constitution that
Right.
tells our courts and our legislators and every public citizen
There's no right to abortion.
no right to an abortion.
That's right.
Period.
We don't want a Roe v. Wade in Louisiana. That's what we're trying to prevent. Right
Okay.
now.
Tell me what other legislation that y'all proposed. I think I read about a pain bill or a heartbeat bill that
Well,
did
so
not succeed.
It is succeeding. It's moving
Okay.
through the process. So that's a bill to ban abortion to protect the unborn baby when the heartbeat is detectable, somewhere between 6 and 12 weeks. That, of course, that's going to.
All right, what's the status of that bill?
Yeah, so
right
it
now?
just passed a Senate committee, and it's going to be coming up for a Senate vote here shortly.
Okay.
So people take action right now. Again, it's on our website where they can jump on. You know, we also have other legislation making sure that women who, if they do go to an abortion facility, should know about the disciplinary history of that doctor who's doing the abortion. We just were able to get an abortion doctor suspended because he was violating the terms of his probation with the State Board of Medical Examiners.
So you're finding out the quality of the
That's
docs.
right.
Ben, fantastic.
Thank
you
you,
very
Locke.
much.
Appreciate it.
It's wonderful to have you back on. This is Locke Meredith, Legal Lines. My guest, Ben Clapper with Louisiana Right to Life. See you next time.